gosh, that people are mad at me because I can't do everyone's comment, and I feel so bad. Why did I have a contest again? Because you're stupid? Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they'll be less mad at you when they see the announcement at the end of the video. You mean the one that has to do with sexy I mean Paul? Go to the other cut the camera! Falls, the goddess of despair. Her parents abandoned her when she was a child in the forest, for her mother and father were a part of two completely different tribes. One was compiled of moon high elves, and the other wood elves. Her mother was meant to marry another elf, but fell in love with a wood elf, and they had a child. When her husband found out that the child was not his, he burned part of her face trying to kill her. But the mother was killed instead, protecting her own child. Her real father came and took her away, into the forest. He hid her away in a pile of leaves, and then he was shortly killed thereafter. After a few days, a monk was walking through the forest and discovered the child hidden in the leaves, wrapped in a blue blanket. She wore a heart locket around her. The monk took her in and took care of her for many years, 99 to be exact. This monk's name was Endor, and what she would describe as a father figure. He taught her how to fight along with some of his pupils who would come and go, but one day, on her 100th birthday, she had to go on her own adventure. Along the way, she met a dwarven barbarian, a dragonborn wizard, a tiefling paladin, and a drow elf rogue. Along the journey, the dragonborn taught her how to use magic. She taught them how to cook and hunt, and they taught her more about friends and family. They fought in many great encounters, but the last one was the worst of all. They fought the god of death and tried to protect the goddess of life. They fought over and over and over, and almost at the breaking point, the god of death was about to lose. But then he offered something to Falls. "Don't you miss them?" he spoke. "Don't you want to see your family? Don't you want to be with Endor? Don't you want power, and to teach others the power you learned? That's all you've ever wanted, isn't it? Isn't it?" As she failed a wisdom saving throw, her eyes turned red, and she was now under the control of the god of death. The party eventually realized that they would have to kill their friend as she was too far gone. But the god of death put a curse on her and him, that they shall come in 1,000 years' time. And that's when the campaign ended. But that's not where the story ended. In another campaign, she was placed in an evil cult, and my party fought her many times. When they found out her story, and that the previous heroes had just slaughtered her, a half-elf sorcerer, Eric, came up and spoke to her calmly. He actually showed her empathy, and by the end of that campaign, she fought in the battle against the sorcerer that tried to persuade her that she could have a second chance. She could find Endor again, and she could be happy. Her eyes turned back to normal, and she walked to the other side, and fought with them to defeat the god of death once and for all. And after they won the battle, 5 years later she married Eric, and they had a son and daughter, as she was no longer the goddess of despair, but now the goddess of happiness. Niha was born to a tribe of kobolds, but unlike her brothers and sisters, she was born with wings. In her home, this meant that she was already damned by Tiamat, so her clan made her life hell until she turned 6 and was thrown out. An old man ended up finding her and took her in. She was taught about magic, potion making, and this is where she even started to learn how to add magic to items. Sadly, when she was 10 and a half, she lost the closest thing to a father she had in old age. She took anything she needed before leaving to find a purpose for herself. A month later, she finds a seemingly small, innocent town before being harassed by a dragonborn. He asks Niha where her parents were and why a little girl was all alone. He thought she was a dragonborn. She went to the tavern after everything was sorted out, only to find the dragonborn, 2 humans, and a suit of armor sitting at one table. Little did she know, these people were going to be the ones to help her grow and become stronger. But they were also going to be the people who almost kill her and break her heart. After an awkward apology and the suit of living armor scaring the crap out of Niha, she joined the seemingly already established group of friends, and off they went. Their first quest was to find the son of a farmer. So of course, they all go to the nearest house, ask to spend the night there, and the next morning, Niha is almost killed. She went to go hunting to add some meat to a stew, but what she was not expecting was a warg to jump out at her and say, "Hi there," and then try to kill her. But thanks to her speed, skills, and my DM's shitty rolls, she shot the warg in the leg 6 times, slowing the beast down just enough for her to get back to her group. The group collectively yells at Niha, as the 10-year-old kid, who never has gotten into a fight before, and then they try to calm her down. More time goes on until we get to the city of Standhaven. Little did we know, this was one of the worst ideas we had. Once we finally got into the city, it was full of life. But a city like this also had political interests around every corner, and we wanted in on it. For some reason, I don't know. But long story shorter, things didn't go well. We found ourselves in a tower with a man who had some identity issues and is totally not a brass dragon. The man ended up giving Hnggg, our fighter, a ring made out of the same stuff his armor is made of. Welp, turns out Hnggg was made out of some freaking magic, since when he put on the ring, he blew up! A large force of magic erupted from him, sending Mike, our human mage, out of a window. Mike landed safely on top of a peasant girl and a nobleman who were having a romantic beachside horse ride together. So, he was good. Everyone left to check on him, however. Everyone but Niha, who walked up to Hnggg and reached out to him, only to get burned. The air around him was like magma, and Niha didn't know what to do. She reached out to him one last time, and he reached out for her too, only to summon his sword and cut her arm off. What just happened? Niha thought, until she felt a wave of pure pain wash over her. She was alone for 2 battles until our monk Zoroth ran up the wall and threw a dart at Hnggg. The battle was long and hard, and our most damaging party member couldn't even get close enough without burning. It wasn't until Lance, our human sorcerer, helped Niha lift up her gun, take aim, and fire. The shot bounced around inside Hnggg for a moment before he fell over onto the ground. As he fell, so did Niha, everything fading to black. Alexander was created to be the face of a more human, war-forged army. He was designed to emulate living creatures. In turn, he can emulate anything a human could do. At the very least, this is what his creators were trying to do. The problem was, they didn't know how to make him more lifelike. That's until they had captured a Lord of Hell, specifically the Scribe of Hell. With his knowledge and the scientist's basic code structure, the scribe had succeeded in making Alexander and 2 others, Juggernaut, Scout, and Tactician models. Alexander was the Scout. Alexander was outfitted with a gun as his arm that could transform back and forth. Then he was sent off to war to purge all non-human life. That was until the upheaval. The landmass that Alexander was fighting on was teleported through the ether to another world. Because of this, he waited 9,000 years, unable to move. Because of this, Alexander waited 9,000 years, unable to move due to the extensive damage of going through the ether, but still conscious the whole time. After such time, a dwarven family had found him and carted them off to their village. After 20 years, and the efforts of the dwarven family and a wizard, he was put into semi-working order. The problem was that he was just too advanced, not to mention he was made of mithril. Alexander, being that his original masters are far gone and dead, asked them what his purpose was. They simply said, "To help others." Alexander responded with, "How may I help then?" 980 years pass. The little village has become a little haven of discovery. Due to the efforts of Alexander and the knowledge he brought with him over time, the village adapted to his knowledge. During this long period of time, he picked up a sword as a weapon, because bullets became scarce. He's also helped protect the town from monsters, thieves, and bandits. Due to all these things, he actually has become mayor of the town. And yes, he has put the first democracy into place. Elaine was a noble arranged to be married to a high elf. On her wedding day, she was exploring her new husband's family home when she discovered a hidden door which seemed to call out to her. Reaching out, it glows, and she falls through the wall into an underground cavern. The mansion was built over a long abandoned dragon nest, with a long dead skeleton of an enormous dragon in the center. A voice calls for her to come closer, but as she does, she doesn't notice the fire following her footsteps as she walked into the dragon's tomb. Once inside, she discovers an egg. And then, as she touches it, a dragon spirit appears in her mind and proposes a deal. The dragon would free her from her fate if she accepted to become her follower and take the egg as a sign of her loyalty. Now, being literally on fire, she doesn't see herself having most of a choice and agrees, signing her pact, then blacking out. When Elaine wakes, she finds herself alone in the remains of a crumbled, scorched mansion and a world different from what she remembered. Alone with a small, just-hatched dragonborn, she roamed to the countryside until she came across a school for magic. Honing her abilities, she came to just barely understand the magic flowing in her veins, all while raising a strange golden dragonborn all the while. She never truly knows what happened to the world she left that night. In order to better understand the world and herself, she decides to join a group of adventurers who roam into the city one day. Perhaps she would get a hint of what happened to her husband or her family, or she would perhaps get involved in a fate stranger than her own. Ray had a wife and son, but then his wife left him and their son for a rich noble. His son then turned 17 and ran off with Ray's life savings in search of his mother. Thus, Ray lost his ranch, and that's why he's now a barbarian. However, that's not what this story is about. This story is about the time Ray porked the Ranger Storm's mother. We headed to the Ranger's hometown and upon arrival went to the local inn. As we all sat down for a drink, a beautiful Genasi woman came out to perform, not knowing that this was Storm's mom. Ray immediately recognized her as his old flame from his youth. Long ago, they had planned to run off with one another, but before they could leave, Ray had received a letter from her which read, "Ray, my dearest, I cannot leave with you. I've already left, and you will not find me where we said we would meet. There are many reasons why I cannot be with you, none of which are you. Go out there and find new love in someone else. Forever yours, Summer." As time went on, he found his ranch, his family, and then lost them both. Now, after all that time and pain, Ray stands in front of the one who got away. It's just then, as she's about to finish her performance, that she spots him. She finishes and quickly takes her leave to her room. Storm quickly follows behind her to go greet his mother, but Ray sits frozen, not knowing what to say. The rest of the party go to catch up with Storm and ask Ray if he's alright. Ray simply nods. He drinks a glass of whiskey and prepares himself to face her. He walks into her room just in time for Storm to introduce him. They stare into each other's eyes before Ray walks over to her, grasping her in a fierce and tearful hug. Finally, he says, "I found you, Summer." A week of downtime goes by, and the two refuse to bring up the elephant in the room. What happened between them? Finally, after Ray is wounded in the raid of a goblin encampment, Summer sits at his bedside and clutches his hand. Looking at her worried face, he asks in a croak, "Why did you leave?" Calling Storm into the room with a look of incredible pain, Summer spills her story to them. A noble had forced himself onto her after a performance. After Ray asked her to leave with him, she found out that she was pregnant and that the noble was Storm's father. After finding out, Storm was ready to go and kill the noble all by herself, but Ray asked her to wait until he was healed so that she'd have an ally at her back. He tells her that he would have been lucky to have a daughter like her, as he's already extremely proud of her. He tells Summer he's not upset or angry or even disappointed at her, but instead he loves her and would have been more than willing to raise her as his own, and that Summer did a wonderful job raising her all by herself. Finally, he kisses both of them on the forehead and wishes them goodnight. All in all, we did get revenge on the noble, and happy ending. Ray and Summer are slated to be married.
Congratulations to the 10 people who were chosen and to everyone else who commented. You all get a kiss from me, your rat mother. Mwah. Now, time to sell out.
Didn't you just get monetized recently?
Shut up. This is different. In fact, is this the part where I announce our very first sponsorship? No, it's just merch. It's just merch. Boo! Sucks. But it's merch of Pole. Yes, for a not limited time, you can now order these cute stickers off of Redbubble. Get your very own Ratman, I mean Pole. Get your very own Pole stickers if you want to support the channel, sport your rat pride, or also just want the most adorable half-elf you've ever seen on your notebooks. They're cheap, hand-drawn by me, and you can get either Pole alone or the wedding duo. Subscribe if you want to see more of these designs coming out. So, why'd you do it? Meh. I thought it was better than begging for donations all the time when I can give them something in return. It's more than I would have done. I know, Jazza. I know.